So, Mike here from Australian Mountain Bike Magazine, and we're catching up with Cam Mackenzie over in New Zealand, who's won the AMB Photo Awards presented by Shimano for 2020. Cam, you've taken part in most of the years that we've run the awards, and you finally pulled it off. How did it feel to realize? Did you realize that you'd won, or was it when I called you?
Well, I mean, I saw the four tiles of the shortlist category finalists pop up, and I think normally, I've entered every year since it started, so I'm fairly used to how the process works around that. And so when the tiles popped up, I was kind of like, oh, okay, let's see how we've done here. And I was kind of confused at first. I was like, well, I thought my entry was like reasonable, so how come there's nothing there? And then I think I remember I was talking to my girlfriend and I said, oh, what the hell's going on here? I was like, did I miss the entry or something? Because I was on the road, and it was like, I think I entered with like 20 minutes to go. And so it wouldn't have, been a surprise if I'd done it wrong. And then something clicked later. I was like, oh, maybe if you win or you place within the overall, maybe you don't, get in the category shortlists. And then not long after, you text and called, and there we were. So yeah, stoked.
And that's exactly how we do it. So when we're making the shortlists, we go through, as entries come in, and you're right, a lot of people enter in those last 20 minutes. As the entries come in, both Tim Bardsley-Smith, who's co-judge, and he's kind of, to me, he's got the swinging vote. We create ones that we like as the entries come in over the months. And so we end up with a really big shortlist, and we have to narrow that down to 12 finalists in each one. But at the same time, we kind of shortlist people who's photographer of the year, covering all four and linking them together. We shortlist who we like there too. So we've kind of, there's an in and out in that shortlist process, quite a few phone calls and a few emails and discussions, and Tim telling me, well, artistically, although it's a nice shot, it's not a great shot between different people. So it is a real fine choice. And we do get, I do get a few inquiries after the finalists go live. And it's really good that photographers like yourself have reached out for feedback before, because I'll be honest, to make it into a finalist, you got to be in the top few percent. It's a popular awards, and getting in there is pretty big, or winning is awesome. So, I mean, how'd you feel when you realized, when I did get on the phone and told you that you'd won 3,000 Australian dollars and you're going to get sent a full Shimano XTR 12-speed group set?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was surprised. I think it was the first sort of thing that comes to mind. I think it didn't really sink in at first. I think I've, wanted to win the AMB Photo Awards for quite a few years now. It just didn't kind of seem real at first. And I think it still doesn't. I don't think I'll fully take all in until, I'm riding that XTR. But it's cool.
Cool. And I mean, you in photography, we've seen a lot of your work over the past few years. You're very active in the mountain bike and road cycling media space. You live and play in New Zealand, so you've got a pretty cool backdrop for a lot of the work. But how'd you fall into photography? Because I understand you're quite a competitive downhill racer, maybe before you started photography. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I worked in the cycle industry straight out of high school. Like I wasn't very applied in school, and kind of screwed up the later half of my education because I had a dirt jumping accident and spent the whole lot of my what would have been fifth form exams in hospital, trying to save my life. So that kind of set me on a path to be more applied. And so I didn't get into photography till way after school. I started in the bike industry and then brought a camera because I couldn't ride, or was told I couldn't ride at least, but still wanted to, go out to the skate parks and stuff with my mates. So the camera was sort of my way into it, and or way to stay current. So I think I just, like I'd encourage all young guys to do, is just do it for fun. And then, years go by and the camera comes and goes, and the retail stores I was working in at the time closed down. And so I needed something to do. And by that point, I'd kind of had a few people sort of say, oh, you're good at photography. You should, see what you can do with this. And there was a photography school I went to. And I think that was sort of the catalyst for my step into photography as a profession, I suppose. But again, why would someone who wasn't good at school go back to school? So that was a disaster. I think I got 6 months through my year-long course, and the tutor said, that's off. And so I did. And on my way out the door, he sort of said, you won't ever make it as a professional photographer. Good luck to you. And I think just that hatred, I think fueled my fire to get going. And so since then, I think probably stubbornness is what has, got me through those initial years as you sort of hone your craft a bit and get a leg up. And now we're doing it full time and have been for many years. And yeah, like you say, here in New Zealand, it's a good place to do it. It's a competitive marketplace, but it's a small marketplace as well. So yeah, we're lucky that, everybody wants to showcase New Zealand. So that's a bonus.
Sure. And being a writer and being a photographer, quite often it makes sense that they go hand in hand. But do you think there's an important element for being quite a capable mountain biker and a capable mountain bike photographer? I'm just saying this because I've had feedback from other riders and photographers that they think knowing how a section of trail is going to look when it gets ridden, or the position that a rider will be, or a good rider will be on the bike, helps set up a shot. Is that an advantage compared to somebody who might be an excellent photographer but working outside of mountain biking?
Definitely, yeah. I don't think you could be a mountain bike or cycling photographer without being somewhat of a proficient rider yourself. I'm not saying I'm good, but I can manage my, I can hold my own. So yeah, definitely riding and having raced, like you say, and various other things, and having a technical understanding, I think, as well helps hugely. I don't think there's too many other sort of niche sections within sports photography like there is within mountain biking, where having an understanding of the subject matter is as important. And I've seen, we've all seen, yourself as well, have seen, photographers in a general sense try and shoot cycling or mountain biking and struggle to understand exactly and what's going on,
where the action might be,
what they're trying to show.
Especially
definitely where the action might be. And I think it helps as well in a professional sense. Like if you're on a editorial shoot for the magazine or something like that, you have these short little windows whereby you've got to get the shot, and so you can't just rely on getting one or two good photos. You've got to have a whole set. So that whole thing of being a rider, it comes back into it. You ride down the trail and you stop multiple times, and you can work quite efficiently and be able to maximize the sections of trail that you might otherwise just blow past. So
yeah, for sure. And really kept finding those photos that are going to capture somebody's imagination and make them just get pretty amped to go ride.
For sure. And I think you see people's sort of writing personalities come through in their work as well. Like if you look at Nick as a great example, your guy Nick Goodway, or Way Good,
yeah.
Way Good. There we go. Always get that one wrong. I see it with his work for sure. Like he's quite a great writer in his own right, and how he shoots, it sort of tells a lot about how he rides as well. You see a lot of these kind of, I look at his work and I see a lot of aggression through corners, and I see these little wheelies and this really playful sort of stuff come through in his work. And then you see him ride and you're like, oh yeah, there it is. That's how he rides, So you get a bit of that. And probably in the same respects, I like to ride, in big, wide open, not so built up sort of spaces and these trails that don't really exist. And I think that comes through in my work a bit as well.
Yeah, totally. Well, let's go through what your winning shots were. So the first one in the hero shot category, your mate Sam. And is that at Glendu, is it?
Which one's this? The Hero Shot? Yes. So this one here is at Glendu Bay in Wanaka. So it's a new bike park that's only been open since the beginning of this year. And what a year to open.
Yeah, we've seen a few shots from you from that shoot, but this one was totally unique for me to see anyway, because I kind of knew the position. You know, I'd been looking at this shot before, but it's done at night. And is it backlit?
It is backlit, yeah. So the shot itself kind of came about on a shoot specifically for Norco, and we're working with Sam Blenkinsop, who's probably, you know, one of my favorite people to work with. And I think we'd been tasked with the short deadline, and it was the height of summer. I think it was like the middle of January, which is the worst time of year to shoot because you get all day sun. And so, you know, any photographer will tell you they'll prefer to shoot the first, you know, hour before the sun rises and the hour after the sun rises, and then the same thing with the sunset. And so you've got this 12-hour block of relatively unusable light. And so I think the whole shoot went wrong. We got skunked on the sunrises, and it clouded over, and the light was horrible. And the shot came about just as just a flash in a pan, I suppose. Like I needed something to give them that was good, and everything looked pretty similar at Glendu. And so yeah, this one here, I mean, the one thing that was usable was the dust, and so I thought of some way in which I could do something different, and that's how this one came about. I chucked a flash behind the lip. It was, I think it was like, you have to look at the data on the photo, but I think it's like 20 past 10 at night. It's super late in the piece, and it was like 30 degrees. And I said to the video guys I was working with, I said, can you guys, you know, run on the lip, scuff up all the dust. I chucked a flash behind it, and we had to, I couldn't see Blinky until the last moment as he was coming through it, and yeah, had to click the shutter, and that's what we got.
And what about Sam himself? Like, was he just riding blind in the dark until the flash popped?
Pretty much, he had no lights. I think Sam's worked with me and the boys from Hunt Cinema enough to know that you know, it's going to get a bit weird. It's going to run late, for sure, and we're going to try to do some dumb stuff. So.
Well, it's an epic shot. I mean, for the hero shot category, we wanted something with impact. You actually won we used your winning shot from like an action kind of category last year, which was a racing one, because it really captured what we're after for a hero shot. We wanted something high impact, where that was a lot of rider up in the lens, like, so really filling up, but it just had to be action and really drawing your focus. And although people might think what is a silhouette shot might not do it, I mean, Sam's got it really like about a 90-degree whip going on, and it's at night, and it's backlit, and you got to know that he's riding blind just looking at it. And so that's, you know, for us, that had super high impact. So we thought it was great.
Definitely.
Your wide shot is again, Sam, and it's also at probably the start of the day up on Rude Rock.
It is
super wide, like really expansive. I mean, we were looking for a couple of options with a wide angle. We were thinking shot with a wide angle lens up close and really pulling a lot in, or maybe it's stepping back and seeing, you know, the environments that we get to ride in. Yeah, up above Queenstown's a pretty epic place to ride. You can't see any of it. I mean, what was the prep for this shot? Like, you must have been up pretty early.
We were definitely up early. Again, in another project with Sam. This one was actually taken a couple of years back. This was taken beginning of 2018, and probably one of the first projects I worked on with Sam. This was probably just more by chance, actually. We specifically, I remember we wanted to shoot the iconic sort of Queenstown hip jump, which is a bit lower down on Coronet Peak, and we were shooting at a weird time of the year. It was kind of like middle of March, which is kind of becoming shoulder season. You know, you don't really quite know what you're going to get, other than, you know, kind of quite nice orange glowy light as it transitions into the winter months. And so we wanted to shoot the hip, got up there, and it was cloud everywhere. And I was, running around, screaming all kinds of expletives, thinking, oh man, we just blew this opportunity. We've got, a day. Let's try and make the most of it. And the guy I was working with, Scott, he lives at the bottom of Coronet Peak, and said, oh, it might just be inversion. Let's cruise up higher and see if we can get above it. And so as we started driving up the ski field road, we could see, these little bits of light starting to come through, and it lighten up and the stars pop out, and it looked promising. And so we're like, oh, well, we'll go shoot Rude Rock, which, arguably is not the best decision as it's so overshot, and it's can be hard to get a good shot. And we were greeted by that scene. It was just right in front of us.
Yeah.
And so, I think we just had to, do something a little bit different. And I got a few images on that morning, which have been on other magazine covers before as well. And so this one was, I think, as a photographer, you tend to look at a scene and think, okay, how can through one image I tell the best story here? And so I think this image encompasses everything that was going on there. You identify the trail because you've got the rock in there. And when you're shooting Rude Rock, that is it. It's not a Rude Rock photo unless it's got the rock in it. And I think that just everything worked perfectly. And the cloud really makes it as well. I think if you see that same image during the day, it's actually quite ugly. You just see this expansive sort of semi-built up farmland, and it's not pretty.
Yeah, totally. No, I think it worked really well, which is why it won our vote. For the next two, we kind of move into, I'm going to say slightly more technical, as not a most proficient photographer. So if we're looking at your pan shot, I know in your description of it, you were really happy with the texture of it and the colors. I think you likened it to an oil painting. Now, we got a real mixed bag of pan shots. We got a lot of really good ones and a lot that really just looked very similar. Great shots, but they didn't stand out. Now, this one, I think you're right. There's the contrast of the rider color, but also the texture of the trees, and obviously the action in there. What made you pick that one? Because I'm sure you've got a lot of pan shots in your back catalogue.
Yeah. I think the photo awards this year definitely allowed us as photographers to dig deep. Previous years, I think that's been my undoing, is that there's always been that sort of 12-month cap on images, has to have been shot within the last 12 months. And so you're limited to what work you've done. And so this time I was kind of thinking, okay, well, how deep can I dig to find something good? Because truth be told, is a pan shot isn't really something I shoot a whole lot of. I find that it's too high risk in a commercial environment to be wasting time on gambling gambling with the pan shot a bit, because it's a mixture of technique and luck, and often probably more luck than technique. This one here was,
right? You need to have a location that suits getting a pan.
Totally. And that's much harder than what you think. You can have a nice clean stretch of trail or a nice corner, and often you'll line it up and you'll sort of start panning through and you're looking at it and you just can't get it right, and it just can be that the apex of the corner is weird or your positioning's wrong. But also as well with the pan shot, it needs to tell a story. Like, there's no point in having that photo taken if there's no story to be told. Like, if you can't see where they've come from or where they're going, then move on. And so I think this image for me, it had enough of that going on, and this was probably the one image that I was really stuck on, I think, when entering. In previous years, and talking to Tim, like you say, I asked for feedback most years around sort of where I've gone wrong, just so you can improve as a photographer and for the next year and stuff like that. And it's always been like one image in a set that's kind of let me down. And so this one, I was kind of like, this is either going to be, it was definitely my make or break image. It's either going to be, this is going to get it or this is going to ruin me. And yeah, I think there was just, I think the way the lines, I guess, move through the image as well. It's not a traditional pan shot where it's a clean horizontal track. It kind of sweeps through the image and it links into the rider and the trail, and then compositionally as well. Like, any photographer who, you know, truly understands the technical fundamentals of an image will tell you that, you know, the way the lines move fits within, you know, all your, you know, compositional rules. So yeah, I think, yeah, it was, I was happy with it, but I think I could have had the rider slightly sharper.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have had it slightly sharper, but yeah.
I guess you didn't know it was the right shot until I was giving you a call earlier this week.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I said something I shouldn't have said.
And on the last one, which is detail, it was, to be honest, this, for most people, this was the make or break it shot. And in terms of overall entries to the categories, in not being for the whole photo awards, the photographer of the year category, this was the one that I think a lot of people didn't struggle with, but it certainly had less entries than, say, the hero shot, because we're looking for a detail shot which really drew your focus in. It could have been at the precise moment of time on writing. Like the sample photo we used was Baron Morrison burping a tire, pushing into a corner, and you could see the air escaping and blowing a dust cloud. Really precise bit of detail.
Yeah, minute millisecond.
Yeah, totally. And it takes either amazing dumb luck, or actually that was Nick Waygood's photo that we used as that sample, or being able to shoot it and working with the writer and getting your settings right. Obviously the detail could also just be drawing your focus in on something else, and some still life. So yours is a photo of some roost, and I think you said in your description as capturing that dirt in the air before it lands. Yeah, precise timing. What were you trying to achieve, and what were you looking for when you were submitting a photo for the detail section?
I think I was looking for that, you know, stolen moment, I think, is what would have come to mind when I was thinking about a detail shot. I had a plan that I wrote when the entries came out. I was like, okay, I've got ideas on what I want to achieve here. And I think I had a completely different idea in my mind of what I would have wanted to produce for this, you know, category. But, you know, time ran away on me and I never went for it. So I kind of had to dig through what I had. And I think this image suited a brief I'd had for the shoot that this image was shot on. And it was around a tire, and the whole thing was about mud and dirt and that sort of stuff. So I think, yeah, just the dirt, the way the dirt is in the air for me was kind of that detail moment. And I think by luck, there's that little golden leaf that's sharp, just kind of floating in the air there. And that kind of made it for me. I think I didn't actually really have anything that really stood out to me. I didn't really like anything. I couldn't find a whole lot of stuff that I had that really sat well with me. And so this one was kind of a compromise, I think, on what I liked. And yeah, that's just sort of what came to mind, what I chose to submit. I think there's other things within the image though that seal it for me, and it's thought about differently. Like like most magazine editors, hate bum shots. I don't like to shoot them. I don't like the way they get used. It's not it's not emotive, right? You don't see the emotion in the writer's face. So for me, it doesn't tell enough of a story.
It's a very limited story with an away photo.
Totally. And so with this one, you definitely have to have something else going on in the image. And so with that dirt and that leaf, but also the way the corner kind of runs from one corner of the image through and then out, and then kind of leads your eye through that detail and then out towards the rider. It's almost not about the rider there. It's about where they've come from and sort of what is happening within that moment.
And it is showing that you're seeing just a small moment in time, and it's showing that the speed that the rider's coming through at and where they're going, where they've been. So and like you said before, it's about the composition, from drawing the viewer's eye through it to kind of find the action in a still photo, which again, detail was a tricky one to judge. There were a lot of photos that were really good, and some that were kind of you know, they were just I'm not going to say a stab in the dark, but they were a bit of a just see how it goes. But this one, you're right, it was having that extra bit of interest in there is what kind of got it across. So, I mean, that's the 4. Hopefully you're going to be pretty stoked with a new group set and $3,000 cash for that. And obviously full magazine feature in issue 185. Yeah. So you've won a category before, you've placed in a category before. I think even the year before that, you got editor's choice. So I think I just ran one of your photos as just one of my outright favorites. So we ran it in a pumped page.
Sure.
So you've worked your way up the AMB Photo Awards food chain. What would be your suggestions if you to any photographer who's at home thinking like, I just didn't nail it, bearing in mind to make the finals, you've got to be in those top few percent. What would you suggest that they do if they want to have a better crack in 2021?
Ooh, it's a hard one. I think it is a mixture of things. I think what I found worked for me was asking questions of you and Tim, I suppose. And so, you know, I'm a competitive person. So when I don't do well, I want to at least know why. And so, yeah, asking for feedback and then understanding what worked. And, you know, obviously you see that through a placing or a win in a category, or, you know, you guys telling us, you know, oh, well, that was good, but this let you down, and that sort of thing. It really helps. You know, you need to be critical as well of your own work, and you need to think of a competition like this and those 4 images as your best 4. You know, it needs to be, you know, the highlight of your year in a sense.
It's true. Like we see a lot of entries that are exceptional, but they're let down in a tiny bit. And to be the photographer of the year, you can't have that. You can't have.
For sure. For sure. And you need a point of difference. I think that's the biggest thing, is you look at all the entries over the last, you know, couple of years that have won, and each one has something different, and it's not shot. No 2 images are shot in the same way. And so I think letting your, you know, your freak flag fly is what it takes. You know, you need to be creative and you need to reimagine these things. So, you know, when photographers get the brief around what you guys are looking for, analyze that down to the nth degree and think, okay, how can I really think about things different here? And I think, you know, the hero shot is a good example of that. You know, it's, you know, using flash in a backlit manner, but then silhouetting the mountain and things like that. That's a good example of taking, you know, the brief around hero and then thinking about it in a completely different manner. You know, you just got to do things different, and don't be afraid. Don't, like, take risk as well, because either it's going to pay off big time or it's not going to. And then you get that feedback, and then you go, oh yeah, well, you know, those 2 were great, and this 2, you know, could have been done different. And so, yeah, it just, you know, keep your eyes open to everything that's going on around you, and just shoot. And then, you know, see what fits in, and also as well, shoot specifically for the awards if that's something you have time to do too. You know, treat it like a client, treat it like a commercial shoot.
Well, that's actually one thing that I did say during the awards. That the photo awards are a great way for us to find new photographers, and so the young photographer category this year has turned up a couple of young shooters. Obviously, we knew you as a photographer already. I mean, you submitted all your photos in the Trans NZ story earlier in the year, and I mean, yes, yeah, making the image selection for that story was tricky because there were so many bangers. But you know, it is like each category is essentially a brief, and if people can really nail that, then they're up on our radar, if they weren't already, as a photographer to contact to pass some work onto. But look, it's been great, Cam. I'm really stoked to see you pull off a win after chipping away at it and getting everything down to the nth degree. One last thing, what's this M9100 XTR group set going to hang on?
Oh, I haven't decided yet. I'm pretty fortunate in that I used to work for Shimano, and Shimano's great. Got great friends there, and do good work with many of them already. So I already have some on my bike. So I think this one's going to go on the girlfriend's bike. I think we're going to build her up a new Ibis Ritmo, I'd say. So
Lucky. That'll look good.
Those sort of things are best enjoyed together. So.
Oh, totally. Well, maybe that's a category for next year. Couples who ride. But thanks so much for your time.
Couples who ride, togetherness.
Yeah, I'll get this finished up. Cheers, mate. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Till soon. Bye.